San Andreas is a movie wherein God finally realizes making California was a huge mistake and decides to obliterate it, but with the power of The Rock and his estranged wife, they beat Mother Earth's ass long enough to live a normal life and for The Rock to infect every form of entertainment, and yes, that includes Fortnite. Now, I may have just hit you with a lot of info. That's essentially what this film does, foregoing any real build-up beyond a superficial description of some characters for 20 minutes, then delves right into the action, being placed firmly in the middle of The Rock's streak of being in absolutely everything that's passably mediocre. So let's get into it. The film begins with a pretty good PSA for not texting while driving, because this girl immediately crashes. Through the help of this news lady named Serena, who, yes, is going to be in the rest of the film, but not do much, The Rock finds this girl in his helicopter and goes to save her in a pretty decent sequence, wherein the first guy has a minor hiccup of crushing his arm. How silly. Oh yeah, and I'm calling The Rock, not, Ray. Really? That's his name? Not much of a name change, but okay. Anyways, after this, we see the California Institute of Technology, where Dr. Lawrence Hayes, or I'll just call him Lawrence, is teaching, played by Paul Giamatti in a role strictly meant for the trailers. I mean, he's got all the ominous lines. And he really doesn't develop much of a character arc, and neither do his colleagues, and he kind of just feels like a older, esteemed actor brought in to make it look like it has some more class. He's just there to explain the destructive forces that are earthquakes and how everyone is gonna die. He talks to his colleague Kim, who tells him of some quakes near the Hoover Dam. The Rock goes to his house and talks to his daughter Blake, played by Alexandra Daddario. They're the typical estranged father-daughter type that really gets overplayed in movies. It gets really annoying, but in this one it's fine. Back with Kim and Lawrence, they're studying the quakes until they realize a bigger one is coming, one that devours the Hoover Dam in a pretty cool action sequence. However, it gets ruined by Kim sacrificing his life for this random child with just the worst survival instincts. They're always in these disaster movies, however it's a pretty disturbing death the way he wants the child to look away as we are forced to bear witness to the absolute destruction of the Hoover Dam, where we can't even see him. It's a cool way to show how, despite how horrific this death is, it's just one in a sea of thousands that will soon come. And it's just kind of cool and disturbing looking, I guess. It's just like, holy shit, a bunch of people died. Although this scene does bring up a pretty good point for people not liking disaster movies, as they essentially take a real-life thing that affects people and glorifies it for our entertainment. It's a gross feeling, and I totally get why this genre went out of style. It feels a little, disingenuous and a little rude to take something that affects real-life people and make it seem, cool and destructive and make it a form of entertainment. It's just a little weird. Earthquakes are a real thing that displaces many people, so seeing it be done as a form of entertainment for millions and shown as this cool action set piece would rub some people the wrong way. Anyways, back with The Rock. He meets with his ex-wife, Emma, played by Carla Gugino, and her new fiancé, Daniel, played by Ian Griffith.
You guys moving in?
Yeah, I was meaning to tell you, but we haven't had a chance to.
Awkward. Anyways, they talk, and Daniel mentions how he can fly Blake out to San Francisco for a volleyball game, so Emma can also unpack. Wow, it's like The Rock was deciding what emotion to give and decided on nothing. Impressive. We get some more characterization for Daniel and why he never had kids, as he was busy creating skyscrapers, and that's it. That's his characterization. Admittedly, it's interesting the way he refers to him as his kids, but it doesn't go further than that, so it's just weird. They go to Daniel's work, and as Blake sits down, we meet two more, thankfully more interesting characters, Ben and Ollie. They're very quickly likable and have a nice brotherly bond that makes the film more compelling. Back with Lawrence, we meet another character, Alexei, played by Alex Utgoff. Lawrence meets with Serena, and they talk about what happened in Nevada and the Hoover Dam, and how they can predict the earthquakes. However, that gets interrupted by Alexei and another student named Phoebe, played by Marisa Nittling, showing the San Andreas fault line having a jump in pulse rates, 20 points higher than in Nevada. Back with Emma, she meets with Susan, Daniel's sister, who's immediately a bitch to this waitress, so she's gonna die in an especially brutal way.
And you have just the one daughter, right? Right. Your other one drowned in an accident?
Wow, she's cold. The Rock calls Emma, but gets interrupted by an earthquake. It is also during this time that Daniel and Blake get into this limousine, but get interrupted by the earthquake, and it kills the driver, crushing him to death and pinning down Blake. Daniel leaves, but not selfishly, as in he gets someone else to help, so he's at least trying to help, he tries to find help, but upon seeing a shoe that looks similar to Blake's, gives up and leaves, and I guess this activates his asshole gene, because that's what he is for the rest of the movie. No subtlety. However, Ben decides to try and help her, as we continue with the first earthquake with Emma, who tries to follow Susan as she goes through her door, only to see the whole room Susan went into collapsed. Yeesh. Brutal. Emma continues through the building in a really cool one-shot, although you can tell when it cuts when some people run by. However, it continues to the top of the building as it crumbles down in a really cool scene. Regardless or not if it's actually just a one take, even still it's just like 2 or 3 takes, it's still cool. As Emma looks around with her ears ringing, although only briefly, which I wish went on for longer to make it more eerie, sees the Rock on his helicopter and goes to save her as the buildings conveniently fall like right beside them. Whatever, it's still a cool scene though. In the car, Blake is struggling to get out until she finds her phone and calls The Rock. However, the cell service gets turned off and the rock that killed the limousine driver continuously comes down, making it harder for Blake to move. Eventually, Ben and Ollie find her and help her, lifting the rock off with the car jack in a pretty decent scene that actually feels like someone used their brain and tried to find a decently creative way to get out of the sequence. Blake gets out and the three leave as an aftershock hits with some actual brutality. Surprising for a modern blockbuster, although this was the mid-2010s when you could still have some blood in your movies. They seem to be getting less censored now. Back with Lawrence, Alexi, Phoebe, and Serena, as well as our cameraman Dylan, go to a media lab and ask some students for help to hack into the media outlet to warn everyone of the oncoming earthquakes. However, one thing of note is that they say the earthquake was a magnitude of 9.5, which isn't actually possible in the San Andreas fault. They can't even go to 8 or 8.5 except in some areas. I know this is a disaster movie, but if I don't care about the characters, I'm gonna focus on this stuff. Blake and the others go into a phone store and end up calling The Rock and Emma again, but this time actually being able to talk for more than 30 seconds, which is where it gets revealed Daniel left Blake. At least it gets revealed to Emma, which causes her to get upset about it, but don't expect anything out of this. You're gonna get some cool action scenes, and that's about it. Not in relation to her standing up to Daniel. You're not gonna get some riveting character drama or any basic writing 101 skills at play here.
Wait, Mom, how are you and Dad together?
We'll explain later.
I saved your mom from a collapsing building because she called me telling me where she is. It's that easy. Stop dicking around. This isn't some compelling part of the movie that's gonna be, saved for a cool reveal. It literally has no impact.
And I'll get back to you.
You left my daughter? If you're not already dead, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Okay, that's your one effort for this film? Could have been more impactful, but I guess it makes sense. Shows Emma realizing Daniel's an asshole, but again, this isn't very interesting or fleshed out, which is funny because again, he isn't really an asshole. He thought Blake was dead from that boot dropping, so yeah. Although I guess this next scene contradicts what I just said, because as some buildings fall down into a group with Daniel in it, a bunch of debris makes its way towards him, causing him to throw a dude out from his hiding spot to hide there instead, killing the other dude, or at least injuring him. Wow, what an ass, and in a very poorly written way. No transition or anything. The Rock's plane stops working, and they eventually go into a store that's being looted. Damn, at least it's realistic, something like that would happen. However, I immediately lose my sense of immersion when some guy tries pulling a gun on the Rock. Yeah, in what world would that work? Also, I somehow always forget the scene whenever I'm watching the film. I don't know why, guess it's because it's so quick and it just doesn't have much of a bearing on the plot. It's not like, oh, this scene sucks, it's decent, it's realistic, I just always forget about it for some reason.
I've been needing that truck.
Not today.
God, that was so uninspired. Eventually, Lawrence and Serena manage to get on the air at Caltech in the media lab and warn everyone about how the shaking's not going to stop. It's going to get worse. They're experiencing the shifting on tectonic plates and what he describes as a swarm event. It's a decent scene, albeit obvious trailer line fodder, making for good ominous lines like,
that the shaking is not over. San Francisco will get hit again, and it's going to be a bigger monster. People need to know that the shaking is not over. We'll get hit again, and it's going to be a bigger monster. It will be so big that even though it's happening here in California, you will feel it on the East Coast. The Earth will literally crack open, and you will feel it on the East Coast.
It really just gives me similar vibes to Bryan Cranston in Godzilla 2014.
I want to talk to somebody in charge.
You are not fooling anybody when you say that what happened was a natural disaster.
You're lying.
It was not an earthquake. It wasn't a typhoon.
Because what's really happening is that you're hiding something out there. And it is going to send us back to the Stone Age.
Anyways, this is really the last scene where these characters have any importance, and we still have around 40 minutes left. At least to make up for that, we get a pretty good scene with The Rock trading their car for a plane. It's a nice slower scene that shows some of the aftermath in a haunting way. The dialogue's not too cliched, although Emma mentions their dead daughter. Oh yeah, they had a dead daughter. They mention her more than their alive daughter Blake, which isn't great and reeks of a typical Hollywood storyline that they thankfully since abandoned, or at least done way less frequently. I also don't love the music stinger during this reveal. It's a bit annoying, but thankfully it's brief, and the destruction is haunting enough to give it some points and make it stand out a bit and be like, oh wow, this is a real event, it has real weight, so at least there's that. However, the scene between The Rock and Emma talking about their dead daughter is just too cliched to get into. Obviously losing someone is sad, but since the lines are super cliched, all it does is just remind me of another film instead of investing me in this one. The flashbacks as well make it rely less on The Rock's performance, or more so lack of one, and more on the visuals, an issue plenty of other movies avoid. Oh yeah, Ben, Blake, and Ollie end up seeing the Coit Tower destroyed, which is where they're originally going to, so they set their sights on Nob Hill, the highest point in the city and the other way. And also as the building Daniel was constructing earlier. The Rock and Emma can't seem to land at the airport, and thus they decide to land in the AT&T park, celebrating their landing as thousands of innocent people continually die in the background. Their houses may never be restored, but these random people's marriage is.
It's been a while since I got you to second base.
And their sex life too, apparently.
Daniel built that building.
Wow, it seems like the movie itself is crumbling under the weight of just how important Daniel is to the story. Speaking of him, let's get back to his story. Nice. Oh yeah, the earthquake causes a mega tsunami, and The Rock and Emma avoid it, as everyone else that's expendable doesn't. But I want to take this time to mention something funny. For the premiere of this movie, a geologist was invited to, I guess, fact-check it. Unsurprisingly, beyond the stop, drop, and roll part, not much was accurate. Honestly, they should have invited me. My only complaint would have been The Rock not fucking the earthquake itself in the third act. Would have been very progressive in terms of representation. Tectonic plates have feelings too, you know. Plus, it could have made for a good between a rock and a hard place joke. Okay, I don't know what you guys were doing just standing there, admiring the view. Kinda on you. Anyways, the tsunami crashes into the building Daniel's in, building, trapping Ben, Blake, and Ollie in there. Anyway, some stuff happens, Blake almost dies, but The Rock saves her and resuscitates her, and her and Ben get together, I think, and they celebrate, as the film ends. And that was San Andreas. Fine? It's fun enough, but the time in between the action scenes is middling at best. It comes across as a very fun film for those involved, I'm sure, but besides some cool bits of carnage that admittedly looks amazing, there's not much there, and it's not utterly bonkers like 2012 or actually kinda good like The Day After Tomorrow, so it just kinda sits in the middle as passable schlock. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can show your support and tell me what you thought of this film or what you thought of my video. Always trying to improve. If you want to subscribe, it's free and shows me that you like these videos and are interested in seeing more of them. And you can click the notification bell. It shows like all notifications, like when they're out, when my videos are out, and I only release one like once a week or something like that, once every week or two, so it's not like I'm going to flood your inbox. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.